Hey guys, JV here discussing more Battlefront 2 news. Yesterday, Wall Street analyst Justin Post forecasted that Battlefront 2 will fall short of its predicted sales numbers. Initially, it was thought the game would sell 14 million copies, but that's been lowered to 11.5 million. Post also adjusted his estimated 2018 fiscal earnings per share for EA from $4.28 to $4.22. This is most certainly, without a doubt, a reaction to the massive controversy surrounding Battlefront 2 over the past month. And if we've learned anything from EA's CFO Blake Jorgensen, it's that shaky earnings and lower projections, anything related to money, is the only thing that will truly get their attention. However, Post still believes this game could rake in a ton from microtransactions if and when they return. If Battlefront 2 ends up selling nearly 12 million copies, the current projection, and each player spends $10 on loot crates, that still adds up to over 100 million in sales from in-game microtransactions alone. The issue is that that's an extremely generous estimate on both fronts. We seriously don't know how much Battlefront 2 will do in terms of sales at the end of the day, and I think most people would agree that $10 on microtransactions, that average per person, is kind of pushing it. Of course, we can't forget that the top 1% of spenders usually account for the vast majority of microtransaction sales, but still, that average just does not make sense in my head because most people probably will not be spending money on microtransactions, especially after all of this controversy. And not to mention, microtransactions have been turned off since launch, and so to think that when they come back on, this game is going to pull in another 100 million from in-game loot crates seems a little extreme. So that little bit of news branches to our main topic for today's video, which is Battlefront 2's overall sales numbers. According to NDP, which does a lot of the market research for video game sales, Star Wars Battlefront 2, at least in the United States, only sold 882,000 copies in its debut month in November. And when you compare that to huge games like Call of Duty World War II, it's only 20% of what that game sold. That game sold 4.4 million copies. Now, you do have to account for the fact that COD got a 2-week start in terms of sales in just that month alone. However, this is a big, huge gap. And if we remember, the very first straw that broke the camel's back on Battlefront 2 was the hero cost, right? It's like, why do I have to spend all this time to unlock heroes that could have potentially been in the game in the first place? And then that spiraled into, why is this game pay to win? Why is the progression directly tied to microtransactions? Why is the game purposefully designed in such a way to steer me towards spending money? And as we know, they removed microtransactions in-game before launch, the night before launch. But of course, EA has still been vocal about their plans to have microtransactions return eventually. That is their monetization plan for the future. That's the way that they're going to be able to provide, free DLC, which, as some of you may know if you're familiar with the game, an update just dropped yesterday for, the new movie that's coming out with Finn and Captain Phasma and different maps from the movie. Circling back to those numbers, I just don't see how Battlefront 2 truly recovers from this controversy. And the analyst, at least the one here, believes that Christmas sales are going to kind of bounce back in terms of overall sales. They're going to help with that. And then people will forget about the controversy, but I don't see people forgetting. I mean, this is something that reminds me, I'm not saying it wasn't warranted or anything like that, but it reminds me of the controversy with Mass Effect Andromeda. It was truly popular to hop on this train, and I'm one of the people who did because I felt like it was something worth sharing with you guys. The point I'm trying to make is that this was a big deal, and I don't see people forgetting about it. And so, yes, I do think Christmas will represent a bounce back in terms of sales, but they didn't even break 1 million copies sold in half the month of November. November is supposed to be a huge month for video game sales, and so we'll have to wait and see if it does indeed bounce back. To close out the video, I'm going to share something interesting that the financial analyst actually posed, different ways that EA can return and monetize the game without causing another big controversy, and I want to see what you guys think about these. So his first suggestion is one that we've been posing since the beginning. Focus on cosmetics, skins, lightsabers, blaster coloration, vehicle appearance modifications, different hero costumes from scenes and events in the movies across different eras. This is, again, something we've talked about, and I've always always maintained that we need to be realistic here, right? How are they going to monetize this game moving forward? We know that's their strategy, and we know they're going to stick to it, and that's just a reality in 2017. And so this is the most likely outcome, in my opinion. His next suggestion is adding more heroes and villains, and this is something I think that's already happening. I'm not sure if he's aware of that, but he cites, the whole controversy surrounding locking Vader and Skywalker. That pissed so many people off. 50,000 credits. It would take this much gameplay, 40 hours, or this much money in order to unlock them. Players tend to spend more money on microtransactions later on down the game's life cycle. And so adding more heroes and villains presents another, monetization opportunity for them. Next is to add what he calls visible collectibles. And this is kind of the same thing as cosmetics, but it's more tied to achievements and what you've done. So if you've gotten, say, 2,000 kills with, the assault class with a specific weapon, then maybe you have a gold version of that weapon, or you have a little trophy, that shows up every time you kill somebody. Something along those lines that could somehow tie in as a microtransaction. And then finally, he lists single player DLC, which is odd because they're already adding single player DLC. The newest update added 3 playable missions for Iden Versio and the campaign. So I'm not sure how they would go back and remonetize that. So the main takeaway here is that EA have most certainly felt the financial blowback of this controversy. When you have financial analysts going back and changing their projections, that's got to hurt them. And so we can only hope that that makes a lasting impression on EA, no matter what their CFO comes out and says publicly. And additionally, we can only hope that other publishers take note and do not include predatory microtransaction systems in their game from the beginning, because holy moly, the PR backlash here was absolutely insane. No publisher, no developer wants that for their game. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. In the comment section below, let me know a few things. First off, do you think Battlefront 2 will hit 12 million total sales? Why or why not? And then also, let me know what you think of those 4 strategies that Justin posed in terms of monetizing the game long term. What do you think would work? What do you think wouldn't work? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more commentaries like this. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.